It's our interview series with Glenn Shorrock, Graeham Goble, and B. Birtles. I'm John Beaudin. In this clip, we talk about John Farnham, replacing Glenn Shorrock in the Little River Band. And in this series, we're pleased to have the three top guns in the Little River Band: Glenn Shorrock, Graeham Goble, and B. Birtles. In this episode, it's all Graeham.
And I knew about John Farnham when he started becoming big, not here, which was weird. Whispering Jack didn't really make it was weird. I remember listening to it and going, this is a great album, but North Americans, I don't know, unlucky bounce. But that was one of his, when you produced him and wrote most of that album, that was kind of his first comeback. Did you guys know each other?
No, I always loved John's voice. And when, at that time, this was late 70s or maybe right on, I'm not sure, maybe 1980 or something. As a writer, I was writing so many songs that weren't suitable for Glenn's voice. And in fact, The Night Owls was probably one of the first ones because Wayne's got that higher register and Glenn couldn't really, it's not his tone or his voice to be able to sing The Night Owls. It needs someone like Wayne with that higher register. So when I've always loved John Farnham's voice, and back before at that time, he was pretty much, he'd had a big successful career in Australia as a pop idol in his teens, but then he was sort of doing cabaret, which was like a Vegas thing, but not really like playing to small audiences, a few hundred people or something. And so it was me that I approached John's manager and said I had an idea that I would like to produce a rock album for him, and would he be interested? Well, he was interested, and then John came over to see me, and then he had about 100 songs on cassettes. He said, have a listen to these songs, not that he'd written, that the people had given to him. He should record this, that. And so I took the time and I listened to all the cassettes, and I was honest with him. I said to John, look, there's a couple of things here that we might be able to do something with, but I don't think that the material is very strong. Apart from John had his own arrangement of Help, the Beatles' Help, that was his work, and I thought that is awesome. And I think possibly even Tina Turner did his arrangement later, but John Farnham came up with that arrangement, and I thought that was fantastic. So John said to me, well, do you have any songs? So I said, well, I've got...
Do you have songs?
Lots of songs. So I played him a song, and he said, oh, I love that one. Could we do that? And I said, well, fine, if you want to. It ended up that I wrote, I think it was 9 or 8 of the 10 songs on that record. And so then I suggested that he contact Glenn Wheatley to manage, because Glenn Wheatley was our manager at that point. So it was me that introduced, Glenn knew John and Glenn knew each other, but I said to John that I felt that he needed more of a rock manager than what he had. And so that's what happened. And then after experiencing, hearing John's voice on my songs, it was just such an incredible creative experience. When the opportunity came, like when I started writing more songs then, I was thinking of John's voice a lot more than Glenn's. And so when it came time to do the Net album and then the road had come to an end with Glenn, John was like an obvious choice. And the 5 years that he was in the band, we didn't have we had some success. I mean, the other guy was big in America, and we too could have been a top 10, but that was another story. It didn't get the support from the record company. But they were 5 years of my musical life that was a joy for me. I mean, I just had this incredible band that could sing and play anything. And it did include eventually Steve Houston and Wayne. But it was just I was in musical heaven with those musicians and having John in the band as well. I think I personally improved as a singer tenfold having John, because even though the blend was different than what it was with Beeb and Glenn and myself, it was so challenging to sing on top of a singer Farnham is arguably one of the greatest singers that's ever been born, and to have to sing on top of him in harmonies and things, and he taught me so much with his dexterity of vocals and being able to do descending runs, and just, I mean, some of the vocals, you hear some of the a cappella stuff that we did with John. It's amazing what we achieved in those 5 years.
What happened with the parting with Farnham?
Well, nothing. I remember the last words John ever said to me. We finished recording the No Rains album, which we all thoroughly enjoyed, because that was the last album on the Capital 8 album deal. And I think we did maybe one show in Melbourne, one or two, might have been one show. And then John at that time was already doing his demos and recording, trying to get Whispering Jack, because that wasn't a lay down misère either. I mean, he wasn't really a hot item. I mean, it was just, he was still John Farnham, the cabaret artist we used to know at some level. And so he was doing the Whispering Jack recordings, and half of LAB were on that anyway. I mean, David Hirschfelder was doing that. He was on there, and well, not half of them, but some of them. David Hirschfelder was a big part. David Hirschfelder was a big part of Whispering Jack. And so John certainly didn't know, all he knew was that there was no palette at Capitol Records for Little River Band. And he, I think, wrongly thought because of him, and I don't think that was the case. It wasn't the fact that they wanted Glenn's voice, because when we got Glenn back 2 years later, it still didn't work. It wasn't anything to do with not having Shorrock. Everyone thought, well, you've changed your lead singer, we don't want to know anymore. It was just that the hierarchy and the personnel changed at Capitol, and the Capitol people that made LRB a big success in America had left. And there was a new kid on the block, and he wanted his acts to be there, and he wouldn't spend the money on Little River Band. So John thought, well, it's all me, and the songs aren't any good. He got it completely wrong. That was not the case. We had everything. We had the songs, we had the whole lot. So the last gig we did, we finished No Rains, and the last thing John said to me, he put his arms around me and he said to me, I love you, mate. I hope this will work. Hope we can get this working. And that was the last time I ever spoke to him. That's it. And then he went off and did Whispering Jack, where the album didn't even get any support from Capitol. It never, the single never went anywhere. There was nothing support. There was no tour on offer. There was nothing for us to do other than break up. And so Farnham went on and did Whispering Jack and became a legend, and still is. But I value those 5 years with John as much as I've valued all the years I had with Glenn and Beeb and everyone.
What was your reaction? I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, to Whispering Jack when you heard it.
I thought it was a really good album, but I put that more to the amazing work of, not leaving John aside, to David Hirschfelder. I mean, that album was produced by David Hirschfelder. I don't care what anyone says, even though, and then the next one, Age of Reason, they were the two, but then David Hirschfelder didn't continue, and I think it's absolutely obvious that what was going on there. I mean, it was a David Hirschfelder project. He was like the super musician, which he was, and became a very famous and successful film composer. David is a monster musician, one of the best in the world. And he was in charge there. But once David left, then I feel that possibly the records have not been to that same standard, but it hasn't hurt the success, I don't believe, because everyone loves John. Wouldn't matter what happens.
I want to thank the guys for talking to us. Make sure you comment on our videos, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. I'm John Beaudin from Rocky Street Music. Take care of yourself.